This is Jennifer Gonzalez welcoming you to episode 183 of the Cult of Pedagogy podcast. In this episode, we will be talking about 6 EdTech tools you should take a look at in 2022. First, I want to acknowledge that this is coming out a lot later than I expected. The past few months have been incredibly challenging professionally, personally, and even within my community, which was hit by a pair of tornadoes in early December. So I apologize for the delay. I also know that it has been difficult, almost impossible, for most of you in terms of doing the work of teaching. I sent out a video to my email subscribers last week to talk about how strange and tone-deaf it feels to talk about cool tech tools in light of the dumpster fire that is raging all around us, and about my decision to press forward with putting out resources that can help you do the best you can despite it all, because hopefully things won't always be this bad. I read every single one of your responses, and not only did they mean the world to me, but they gave me the fuel I needed to keep going. So thank you. With that said, I will begin the episode. In 2015, I published my very first Teacher's Guide to Tech. I did it because teachers kept telling me that they wanted to use technology more effectively, but they were overwhelmed by the number of tools out there and the lack of time they had to research them and try them out. So they just kept using the same small handful of software applications, feeling more out of touch every year, watching their more tech-savvy peers lap them over and over again. I decided to try and make it easy on them. At first, I thought I would just write a long blog post that put all the major educational tech tools into categories, explain what each one was, and link to their sites. That quickly turned into a PDF that I called the Teacher's Guide to Tech. Now I am releasing the 8th edition of that guide, the 2022 version, and what started as a catalog of just over 100 tools has grown to an encyclopedia of over 500, with over 50 different categories, covering all subjects, including art, physical education, and special ed, along with tools for classroom management, assessment, and feedback. There's a massive collection of resources for social justice and anti-racism, a huge section on makerspaces that includes coding, electronics, and robotics. There are tools for video editing, podcasting, media and news literacy, and social and emotional learning. And for every entry, just like in the first edition, there's a picture of the tool in use and a link to the video that shows you how it works. Every year, it takes a huge amount of time to update the guide, about 3 full months, because not only do I add new tools, but I also update all the stuff that changes. Tools and websites change their name, they get absorbed by other companies, they shift their focus to something different, and sometimes they completely disappear. I look for the most updated videos, make sure the photos are still accurate, and generally make sure everything is as up to date as possible, even though things continue to change the day after the new guide is published. This year, for the very first time, I hired a team of EdTech experts to help me with the update. The task was becoming overwhelming, and I knew if I was going to keep it up, I had to have some help. So in this episode, I will be introducing you to them: Marnie Diem, Brandy Wright, Lucia Hassel, and Kim Darche. In keeping with my yearly tradition, I will be sharing 6 tools I think are worth trying this year. Most are not brand new, and some are not even new to the guide, but each one has something special about it that we think deserves a little extra attention. This year, I have only chosen 2 of the 6. The other 4 were chosen by my new team members. Before we start, I would like to thank Fearless Schools for sponsoring this episode. The stress level in schools is higher than ever, and the need for psychological safety for students and staff members has never been greater. Fearless Schools, newly created by Douglas Reeves and Creative Leadership Solutions, provides an evidence-based approach to transform a fearful school environment into one of joy, confidence, and optimism. We don't need new initiatives right now. We need fearless schools. Learn more at creativeleadership.net/fearless. Support also comes from Applied Digital Skills, a program from Google consisting of interactive video lessons that teach practical digital skills needed for the jobs of today and tomorrow, and it's completely free. There are tons of great lessons to choose from, and students will walk away with valuable new skills like building a resume, developing a presentation, or creating a research plan. Popular lessons include using conditional formatting to create pixel art in Google Sheets, learning how to store, access, and share documents, presentations, and photos in Google Drive, and leveraging Google Slides to create an interactive if-then adventure story. You can easily integrate these lessons into your curriculum, and they work well for remote, hybrid, and in-person learning. Plus, Applied Digital Skills connects to Google Classroom, so you can seamlessly import your roster and get started in just a few clicks. To check out the easy-to-use lessons today, visit cultofpedagogy.com/digital. Alrighty, let's get started. I'm going to introduce the first tool and then the sixth one. And I've got interviews with all 4 of my team members about the tools that they picked. So the first one on our list this year is called Frame. The URL is framevr.io. So here's what Frame is. The past 2 years have given us all more experience with video conferencing than we could have ever anticipated. And while platforms like Zoom and Google Meet do a good job of letting us talk to each other, and they even give us some options for breaking larger meetings into smaller, more intimate groups, the experience is still kind of flat. An emerging group of tools is trying to bridge that gap using VR or virtual reality technology to create online spaces that feel more three-dimensional, allowing participants to move through virtual spaces as if they are physically in a room together. In the guide, we feature 5 of these platforms, and one of them is called Frame. In the world of Frame, a host can create an environment like an office, a lounge, or even an island, and populate that environment with artwork, documents, videos, or any other kind of materials needed for a lesson or other experience. Participants move around the space as avatars and can use voice or text chat to interact with each other and with the instructor. I took a look at some of the videos, and it really seems like there's a learning curve with a platform like this, because it's not like going from Google Meet to Zoom where you're like kind of just looking for the same controls that you would find. But I think it's worth a try. I think it really could be a whole lot of fun. And it could be just one of those things that really breaks up the sameness of teaching remotely. And it's even the kind of thing that you could do in an in-person classroom, especially if you're in a situation where you have to be masked or social distance. This allows people to sort of virtually get closer to each other and have more interactions. It's just a neat concept. So over on the website, on Cult of Pedagogy, I've got all 6 of these tools with links and videos that show them. And the video that shows Frame is just kind of an overview, but then I've also linked to 2 other videos. I did not learn how to say this guy's name. His name is Greg Kulovich, maybe? And he's got 2 much longer videos. They're like 12 minutes that really kind of give you a how-to. So I've linked to those 2 so that you can sort of see someone actually using it and starting up a room and all that. So that is Frame, our first one. The next 4 tools you're going to hear from my team members. So now I have with me Kim Darche. And so first, just introduce yourself a little bit. Just tell us quickly, like who you are, where you are, what do you do in education?
So I am in the Chicagoland area, and I am an instructional coach at a middle school, but I'm also an adjunct professor at a couple universities. So I'm so happy that I'm able to work still within the classrooms and then help foster folks who are about to become teachers. So I've just surrounded myself with education, and I love every last minute of it.
Awesome. And the tool that you are bringing to us this year, it might be my favorite because it's so fun. And honestly, it's like a really good time waster too. So it's just so fun. So tell us about, we're going to be looking at Well, you tell me.
Okay. So there's this really hidden gem that I think is not talked about nearly enough. And it's called Google Experiments. So in 2009, Google had said, hey, we want to test our limits of what our script can do, of what our technologies can do. And they looked out into the world and said, hey, coders, you can use our open source code of JavaScript and HTML5, and we want you to make something extraordinary. And the result has been this complete place where folks from all over could submit an experiment, taking what Google has and then blowing your mind with what they have created. And so when you get to Google Experiments, that is divided into collections across the way. And their collections are focused on sometimes the Chrome browser, sometimes on artificial intelligence, sometimes on artificial reality along the way. But it is mind blowing. And what I think is you're getting a glimpse into what's on the cutting edge of technology, bridging with art and education and all of that good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I've seen some of their stuff prior to you pointing this section out. I've seen some of their stuff that is really good for people with disabilities.
Yes.
People, there's a lot of stuff that has to do with that. And we had kind of featured some of that in that section of the guide, in the special ed UDL section, but I didn't know about the arts and culture one. So first off, let's share the URL to the main experiments page, and then we'll explain to people how to get to the arts section.
So it should be experiments.google.com.
It's actually experiments.withgoogle.com.
Okay, darn it, I didn't.
Maybe both URLs work actually, because I've got it pulled up as that, but they might be smart and have them both direct to that. Okay.
So once you get there, you'll see the collections, and the collections really run the gamut from experiments for learning. One of the best ones that we won't focus on as much, but it's that accessibility piece. It's called Start with One, where the Google Creative Lab worked with one person, and that one person expressed their need, and then they developed something to help and support that need. And the team gets together and says, hi, and they put that person's name. We created this for you because this would fix your problem. And it's lovely.
But this is what I love about having the four of you. I knew nothing about that.
Oh.
So every single day you all are telling me about the coolest stuff.
It's really touching to watch some of those videos. I have a passion for the creative arts. I love theater and music and art. So within the Google Arts and Culture, which in of itself is awesome, they have this set of experiments. There's actually two areas. There's Google Experiments, and then there's something called Play with Google Arts and Culture. So Play with Google Arts and Culture has different ways that bridge the gap between technology and great works of art. So they're no longer just static, go to a museum and look at it, but you could be doing a collaborative puzzle with Starry, Starry Night by Van Gogh. And it's called Puzzle Party, and that's one component of it, where you can use a URL and invite people, and it's very safe, so you can invite people from around the world to join you, and then all of you are doing a puzzle of a great work of art.
I actually played around with that a little bit, and you can actually set it at different difficulty levels, just the way you can buy a 200-piece puzzle or a 3,000-piece puzzle. So I didn't realize it was collaborative, though. That's cool.
So during pandemic teaching, when we were all in our unique homes or unique buildings, we would do this as an advisory activity or a collaboration activity, because you couldn't have someone else moving your puzzle pieces. You were all working together to do that.
Yeah.
It's just like, this exists. Like this is for us to use for free.
Well, and when I think about like I've got 3 high school kids right now, and they talk about what they do in the downtime at school, and it's so depressing. Like I had my daughter last week. She texts me. She's like, "What's the HBO Max login?" I'm like, "You're in school." And she's like, "I know, but I'm bored." And I'm thinking, wow. And there's so many things like this that kids could be doing instead, which is not necessarily academic, but just so much more stimulating.
Yes. And really opens up areas for exploration that may not come in a general curriculum. So I love
Yeah.
art, but like we used to have an art lady that came to our school once a week with a, and
Mm,
it just didn't lend itself. So we can, another one is called Paint with Music, where you choose a background like sky or underwater and you're painting with different instruments. And then it
mm,
plays the music for you. And when I
mm.
tell you, like, it is just a gorgeous experience to have that. You stamp birds on the sky, you stamp fish, and they all have different tones and different movements and play along the way. And it is really just so compelling to dive into.
Yeah.
Another really interesting one is called X degrees of separation, where you
Okay.
choose an image and then you choose
Hmm.
another image. So I can choose maybe prehistoric art, and I can
Hmm.
then put a um, a Chagall. And the
Okay.
computer, using artificial intelligence and machine learning,
Mm.
will bridge the gap between this one art piece and this one art piece. And you see it. And then for the kids to use this idea of what made the connection from this to this to this to this to
Yeah.
this, and have them actually verbalize it, is such a great experience in terms of speaking and listening for your students
Yeah.
and
Well, and
observation
it's
and
it's applying art history and
yeah,
theory and all of that
yes.
into like just actually see all those connections. How
And the
cool.
computer does it within seconds. Like it would take me
Yeah.
forever as a teacher to bridge the gap from this to this. But the computer,
Right.
because of its curated all of the collections from
Yes.
around the globe, is able to do it in seconds. So it's awesome.
That's
I
amazing.
could
Oh
talk
my
about all
gosh.
of them. They're so great.
Yeah. This is, I know I'm scrolling and there's so much more than what you're even saying, and we
Mhm.
just don't have the time. But I'm going to absolutely, encourage people to go over there and check it out.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you. I'm excited.
I am too. So I have with me Lucia Hassel, and she is one of the four-person member of our team. And so, Lucia, just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do in education.
Whoop, whoop. Well, first of all, that's a little surreal hearing that out loud. My name is Lucia, and I am an academic technology coordinator at Holton Arms School in Bethesda, Maryland. Really, what I do is support students and teachers with integrating technology into the curriculum and try our best to make it meaningful and make it student centered in learning. Also, a middle school student life and activities coordinator. So I work with our middle school student government. And a big part of what I love to do is to sort of scratch that leadership potential out of students. It's like
Mm.
those old scratch and sniff stickers. The potential is there
Yeah.
there's something there, but when you scratch it out, wow, you smell all the goodness.
Oh, I love that. That is a really cool metaphor. So, speaking of young people being leaders, the tool, this one is not as much of a tool as it is a website and a project. But this is good. This is part of our social justice and anti-racism section. And
Mm.
so tell me what the name of the site is and then tell me all about it.
So Marley Diaz
Mhm.
is a young student advocate in my eyes.
Mhm.
And what she did was say to herself that she wanted to see more books that saw a reflection of her in the main characters. And she started an online campaign to do
Mhm.
so. And it's called the hashtag 1000 Black Girl Books campaign. And her her campaign, she started to get lots of responses. And as a result, a foundation by the name of Grassroots decided, let's create a database out of this so that everybody can take advantage of this because it's necessary. And I think part of the reason why we put it in our anti-racism and social justice section is because it's going to allow anyone who wants to be an anti-racist educator to honor this experience that she had. And I think there are many young Black and brown girls out there like her who are searching for themselves in the literature that they read. And she is an avid reader. And in my eyes, she's very much an inspiration.
Yeah, because she saw a problem and she decided to actually do something about it, and she's been really successful. Are they
Absolutely.
up to 1,000 books?
Definitely. I
Yeah.
think they're over. So there was a point where they were like, oh, we've gotten over 700, but
Mm.
now it's more than that.
So I'm looking at the site right now. So it's Marley Diaz, MarleyDiaz.com/1000, the number 1,000 Black Girl Books. And so I'm on that page.
Yeah.
And then that just sort of like explains the challenge a little bit, or the campaign. Oh, it says we have collected over 13,000 books. So yeah,
Woo! Yes,
well past a
definitely.
thousand.
And they're still collecting, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I really love about the tool is that you can sort by reader level. So if you are a teacher who is not just trying to look at, don't think of it as a list of just 1,000 books. Like, you can really actually use this as a tool to sort and find what you need for your classroom. Um,
Right.
I think there's also a space where you can share if you have a book or a story that you would like to be a part of this database.
Yes, there's a form people can fill out there.
Correct.
So I from that site that I just mentioned, you scroll down, you click on database, and then it goes to this new site it's got a request form if you want to submit a book, and then when you go a little bit lower, it looks like you can sort by reading level, age level. Um,
Right.
yeah.
And, there's the obvious, the social justice and perhaps equity or DEI part of this, making this a
Hmm.
part of your classroom experience or your learning environment. But I also think it's a beautiful model of student voice and activism. So you mentioned it
Absolutely.
earlier. She saw a problem and she took action on it, and look
Hmm.
at what it's turned into and
Yeah.
how it's trickled down. We talk a lot, me being a tech person, we talk a lot about digital citizenship and this
Hmm.
idea of some people thinking digital citizenship means students shouldn't use social media and we should avoid them doing
Hmm.
these things.
Yeah.
But really look at the model that she's paved to show students this is how you create a positive digital footprint,
Yeah.
that you actually are leaving an imprint that will make impact change, not just for yourself, but for a larger community and others.
That's very well said. That's yeah, absolutely. So this not only serves as a great database if somebody is like an English language arts teacher, or even just has a library in their classroom as an elementary teacher or something, but it's also on its own just a model of student voice, of activism, of all kinds of different things. I mean, it's really, when I think about like the PBL and Genius Hour types of projects that students do, like this would be a good example of that too. Of somebody
Absolutely.
identifying an issue and then, pursuing a solution to that. So, well, thank you for sharing it.
Absolutely.
And I will talk to you again on next year's podcast about your choice for next year. We now have a whole full year to pay attention to what else is out there. And
Thank you.
so,
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I'm so glad that the week we're able to create a space for this type of content and tool and expose it to really impact change. Thank you.
yeah, thank you. Next, we are going to talk to Marnie. This is Marnie. I've always said Diem. Is that correct?
That works.
Well, no, that's not.
Well, okay, I'll say that works because it depends which side of the family you talk to. Some people are Deem and some
Okay.
people are Diem. I answer
Okay.
to both because they're both my name.
Okay. Marnie, before we get into your tool, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Marnie. I am a self-proclaimed tech geek who has only taken one formal technology course in my whole life. Everything else I've learned by playing. I got my first computer when I was 10. I am the coordinator of Technological Adventures, which is the fancy title for educational technology coordinator at a private school outside of Detroit, Michigan. I've been there for 7 years. I love what I do because I get to play with technology, kids, and teachers all day long.
Nice. So your pick, and We had to create its own special section in the guide because it was so special that we fit it into the game section, but we decided it has so much to it that it's going to deserve its own whole page. So tell me about your pick for this year.
So my pick this year is Osmo. And Osmo has been around for a long time. As a matter of fact, I have 2 sets of Osmo, the original that I purchased off of Kickstarter, I don't know, 8, 10, 12 years ago, whenever it first came out. And I've watched the company grow and morph into this incredible, indescribable almost tool for teaching and learning. So basically, Osmo is a base and a little reflector that reminds me of a periscope that you put on either an iPad or a Kindle Fire tablet, and it turns your table or your workspace into an interactive learning zone.
So the eye watches what you're doing with your hands and other manipulatives, and that feeds into the app, basically.
When you say app, there's actually more than a dozen different apps now, if not close to 20. They have the app that introduced me was an app called Words. And Words is fantastic because it's great for practicing vocabulary and spelling. It's kind of like a fancy hangman. There will be a picture of something on the screen and then circles for the letters. And you have these tiles in both red and blue, so you can play in teams, you can play competitively, and you have to put the tiles in when you think you know what the word is and spell the word. If you get it wrong, you lose points. If you get it right, you gain points, and you ultimately are trying to get a certain number of points. What I love about Words is the versatility, because I only had 2 Osmos for several years in my classroom. So we did races, we played as teams, it was a center. But more importantly, you can fully customize the word decks using My Osmo, which is their online teacher portal. So I have created decks for math review units, for science review units, for government, I have a really cool deck for homophones. I've had children create their own decks, and then you upload them into the My Osmo platform. You put them onto the iPad or Kindle Fire for Words to play, and then you've got custom decks.
Nice. That's fantastic. And it sounds like because of that, you can go to a whole lot of different age groups.
Yes, and they even have it like there are pre-created decks, hundreds and hundreds of them, for littles with where an apple is on the screen and you have to find out what letter it starts with.
Right.
And that's just one of the apps they have. Another one I love is Masterpiece. And Masterpiece is so versatile like Words because you can draw from Masterpiece and it's watching your hand as you draw. So it creates a time-lapse recording of your drawing. And we use it in 3rd grade. Our kids create biographies, and so they do a portrait of the person they're studying. It can also be used, what I love is it can also be used for handwriting because it shows you the strokes in which kids are using when they're forming their letters. So again, you can have a custom where it's the student's name or the alphabet, and they can write it all. They're kind of like tracing. You have to look at it. It's really cool. And then as the teacher, you go into your My Osmo portal and you can watch the time lapse of the kids writing and see any discrepancies in their letter formation or in their pencil grip. And then that video can be shared with families.
Right, right. So you've got, and this can all be done while the teacher is someplace else in the room helping another kid do something else. So it kind of takes the place of a teacher temporarily, and then you've got that recording.
Yes.
Tell me about one more of their apps, because it sounds like they keep developing.
They do.
New
They
ones.
recently launched Math Wizard, which is a series of 5 apps broken into almost like books.
Yeah.
And they're all interactive. So Math Wizard is one that comes with tons of manipulatives. So if you're measuring, you might have to slide cubes under the camera or a ruler. And in Numbers, which is their original math game, you have number tiles that are either the numbers or dice tiles that you have to slide under the camera to solve problems. And in doing so, you're creating a fish tank, and you have to use strategy because you want to have as many fish in the tank before it's full. And it's just the whole concept of all of their games or apps are interactive learning. So All of them, with the exception of Masterpiece and Newton, have manipulatives. The
Okay.
rest, and those manipulatives are what the little camera eye reads, and you're interacting. So it's no longer passive play on the iPad. It's
Right.
actually physically manipulating materials. The iPad is responding to them and providing you immediate feedback on what you are doing.
So once somebody sort of gets the system, they can keep adding on basically to more manipulatives, and the company's probably going to continue to do that. And what you're saying, the big bonus of all of this is that instead of just kids on screens forever, they're doing what we like to see them doing in the classroom, which is being a little bit more active and interactive with each other too.
Yes, and it's great for collaboration. With the exception of Masterpiece, all of the games can be done in tandem or in small group. And if you're a teacher, Osmo actually has a section on their educator page for funding, where they provide you with resources to get funding for these. Because it's not the Osmo itself that's terribly expensive, it's the tablets. So they provide you funding resources, but you can work with one or two Osmos in a classroom. You don't need a class set of this tool to make it effective.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing this one. I mean, your enthusiasm about it was what got me interested. And then once I actually started to see what it does, this absolutely belongs in our list this year, even though it isn't brand new. I had never heard of it. So I always assume if I haven't heard of it, somebody else hasn't either. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much for all the help you've given me putting the guide together this year. And we'll see what we come up with next year.
Awesome.
Okay, I have got Brandy Wright here, and she is going to be sharing her pick for the year. So, Brandy, hello.
Hi.
Hi. So, just give us a quick intro to who you are and what you're doing in education.
Sure. Thank you so much. So, my name is Brandy Wright, and I am a second year technology education teacher in a public school in Hampton Roads, Virginia. So, and I also teach integrative STEM for middle schoolers. That's grades 6th, 7th, and 8th. And so I also am a coach for a girls empowerment club in our school. So I do a couple of other things as far as even the robotics team, but I just love being a teacher in public school and excited to be here.
Yeah, and your background is different from everybody else on the team in that you're pretty new to the education. You've got a stronger background in technology than in education. That's correct?
Absolutely. So prior to becoming a teacher, I was a district technology coordinator. So I worked with even instructional technology coaches as well as administrators to teach them all about emerging technology and how to even redesign their learning spaces and to find all these great technology tools, which is what brought me to the Teacher's Tech Guide with you.
And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you onto the team is that you had the self-awareness to think, you know what, if I'm going to be working with teachers, I think I should know more about what actually goes on in the classroom and get some hands-on experience myself. And that was the reason that you decided to start teaching, right?
Absolutely. So I worked with a lot of specialists and supervisors and, really big, strong instructional people in the room. And so sometimes I would say, hey, this tool is really great, or you should do this. And they would look at me like, but you're not a teacher. Or they would look at me like, but you've never been in the classroom. And they never really said it out loud, but it was an understood thing. And I wanted to be better at my job. And in order to be better at my job, I had to get that classroom experience. And I'm so grateful, even though my first year was virtual, it still was really fantastic. And it was literally the best career move I could have ever made.
That's awesome. I love that story. So we're going to be talking about your pick, which is what?
Everfi.
Okay. We're going to go to the website. It's everfi.com, everfi.com. And this is actually not new to the guide. We had it in last year's guide in financial literacy, but since talking to you, I realized, you've seen it in action. And you kind of pointed out a lot of things about the site that I just kind of didn't realize. So I thought this would be a good year for us to kind of sell it a little harder and have people check it out. So what do they do at Everfi?
So EverFi, when I first looked at it, it seemed to be very focused on financial literacy,
Mhm.
most of the courses. So I steered away from it before, but most recently they have added a couple of other course like groups, such
Mhm.
as there's even one called Build My Future Endeavor, and this is a STEM career exploration group. So this group of resources and lessons really targets STEM concepts and STEM careers so that students are able to explore the different avenues in the STEM careers through gaming. And so they actually build a 3D prototype of a tennis shoe. They do some additional things like find out exactly what STEM career fits them based upon their interest. So they take a quiz. It tells them about the STEM career that fits them. And then they go on to do different activities along the way. Playing games. So that's what I really love. Also, there's an additional one that I have done with my students for entrepreneurship. And so when it
Mm.
comes to career and technical education, or not just financial literacy, but the entrepreneurship, many students are interested in owning their own business. And so the entrepreneurship course is also really good.
So in order to find that, because it wasn't really all that visible, I went to the EverFi, I clicked on K-12, it drops down, and they've got the financial education, they've got health and wellness, college and career readiness. I just went down and clicked see all, and that's where I'm getting like a big long list of all the different things they offer. So how do I find the STEM? Okay, I see it now. STEM literacy and then career readiness. I'm thinking if I check both of those, I'll probably see. So, because I'm thinking if people are listening and they're interested in finding that STEM career stuff, where would they go to look for it? Actually, is it called Endeavor STEM Career
Yep,
Exploration Activities
that's
for middle
exactly
school?
it.
Yep. Okay, so by doing that pathway that I just said, clicking on those things on the side.
When you first go to the site, if you click on browse courses and do see all, over to the left under topics, one says STEM literacy.
Yes. Yep.
And then it gives you three different ones actually, because if you teach high school, there is an additional one. The future goals course that's there, that's not new, but the STEM exploration, the endeavor is new.
So if like for example, so have you seen students using the STEM Endeavor one? Have you like watched students doing it?
I have. So,
Okay.
and even as a teacher, you can see what it looks like when you log in and you click on the course. But yeah, when students log in, as soon as it comes up, it's a game. It looks like you're in a city kind of, and it has uh, the different ones that you can do, which you can assign to the students. So for my students, I tell them, hey, so today you're going to do build my playlist, right? And I'll tell them this is the one that or the perfect playlist. So I want you to make sure you scroll over and click on the perfect playlist, because down at the bottom it has each one that they will do. Once they click in there, it walks them through. It'll say, hey, you're gonna, it has a full curriculum guide from their side. But honestly, for the students, even before they do that, as soon as they log in, they have to do the About Me quiz. So
Okay.
the About Me quiz asks them some brief questions. How do you like to learn? What would your locker look like if you had a locker? Do you
Hmm.
prefer to work in groups or individually? What are your interests? And then at the end, it says, this is your type, almost like a personality test. You know how you find out, are you a ENFJ or whatever? Like, it's
Yeah.
kind of like
Yeah.
that. It'll say, and then it says, these are the two STEM careers that best fit you. And then it takes them to that gamified
Cool.
portion.
And this is all free.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they definitely have a lot more than I initially thought they had. So, thank you so much for sharing it. And it seems like they're just going to keep building it.
Yes, yes, it's really great, and it's not just for career and technical education teachers. Is what I really want people to realize too, that this can be for anybody. I even shared this with our physical education team, because there's a lesson on vaping. There's another
Mm.
lesson which kind of comes underneath health and wellness. There are some social and emotional courses that come underneath that as well. It's called, yeah, if you click on the social and emotional learning section,
Hmm.
it shows the one, it's called the Compassion Project. And that's even elementary, but even though it may say elementary, you could use it for any grade.
Okay. So there's just a lot to explore here. This is fantastic. We're definitely going to keep an eye on this. I have a feeling this is going to end up like Canva, where we have it in multiple sections
Mm-hmm.
because it does so many different things. So thank you so much for sharing this.
Thanks, Jen.
So now we're ready for tool number 6, the last one. And this is another one of my picks. It's called Skew the Script. That's SKEW, the script. And their website is skewthescript.org. So this is for the math teachers. The creators of this site are a group of math teachers who were tired of seeing their students drag themselves through contrived, irrelevant math problems. They wanted to write problems that students actually cared about. So with that in mind, they created Skew the Script, a site offering completely free, socially relevant math lessons for Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and AP Statistics. At least that's for now. It seems like they're still adding stuff. There are lessons on lighter topics like sports, fast food, pop culture, and others that are on more serious issues like climate change, equity issues, gun control, and vaccinations. Lessons include videos, teacher slide decks, student handouts, and other resources to support teachers in face-to-face or online teaching. So the video that I've got on the site is just one of their example videos. They don't currently have an explainer video that showcases the platform, but I've also linked to their whole YouTube channel so that you can see all of their other lessons. But you can also just go and explore the site at skewthescript.org. So that's all the tools. You can find the guide by going to teachersguidetotech.com. You can also come over to Cult of Pedagogy and go to podcast episode 183, and you can read about these and watch the videos. I'm really proud of the guide this year. It took way more work than usual, and one of the reasons because we rebuilt the whole thing. I have always made it in PowerPoint, which was very, very janky, and I decided to do it properly this year in InDesign, and so that we really remade the whole thing over again from scratch with the idea that it would hopefully be more accessible. I don't know that we got all the accessibility pieces together because I think maybe that would have taken us until March, but that's a goal for this year is to continue to improve that. So it's teachersguidetotech.com. Thank you so much to Marnie, Brandy, Kim, and Lucia. And to you, thank you so much for your patience. For more information on these tools and links to the brand new Teacher's Guide to Tech, visit cultofpedagogy.com, click podcast, and choose episode 183. To get a bi-monthly email from me about my newest blog posts, podcast episodes, courses, and products, sign up for my mailing list at cultofpedagogy.com/subscribe. Thank you so much for listening and have a great year.